there was a satyr, and a satyr is one of those creatures with goat-like body from the waist down, and a human body from the waist up, and two little horns. And this satyr, well, he'd been drinking a little bit, and he fell asleep in the rose garden of King Midas. And King Midas knew right away that this satyr was a good friend of Dionysus, the god of wine. He figured, this guy's got connections, I better take care of him. So he had his servants carry the satyr to a beautiful room and set him in a bed and gave him everything he needed, food and water and wine. And after a few days, the satyr was feeling a little bit better and went off looking for his friend, the god Dionysus. And Dionysus was so pleased with the care that had been given to his friend that he told King Midas, let me give you a gift. What do you want? I'll give you one wish, anything you want. And Dionysus thought for a minute and he said, gold. I love nothing more than gold. I want anything I touch to turn to gold. Dionysus looked at him and said, are you sure? Of course I'm sure. I love gold. Okay. And Dionysus stretched out his left hand and touched the man on the tip of his fingers. And poof, the god was gone. Midas began running all over his castle, touching everything he could find, and sure enough, plates and tables and pillars and doors all turned to solid gold. Now it made those doors kind of heavy to open and close, but he was so happy, he spent the whole rest of the day touching everything in his castle. And when it was time to eat, of course, he sat down, and he realized the curse he had asked for. Because when he lifted a golden goblet to his lips, and his lips touched that wine, poof, it turned to gold. And the grapes he picked up, they turned to gold too. And he suddenly realized that he couldn't eat anything without turning it to gold. And that would be bad enough. But about that same time, his daughter came running into the room. Father, Father, I just found the most beautiful butterflies out in the garden. Come quick, I want to show them to you. And she grabbed onto her father's hand and turned into a golden statue. And then Midas knew that he had to do something. Putting on a regular workman's clothes, he began wandering around through the countryside looking for Dionysus. And it took weeks for him to find the god sitting in a field, singing and dancing with the satyrs and the fauns. He went up to the god and said, Dionysus, you were right. I don't want to be able to turn everything I touch into gold. Please take this away. And the god smiled and said, I can't. You asked for it, I can't take it away, but you can. There's a river not far from here. Follow the river all the way up into the mountains. And when you get to the spring that's the start of that river, wash yourself in that water, and it'll take away the magic. Take a picture of that water home with you and dump it on everything that you turn to gold, and it'll turn back the way it was. And from now on, Midas, be careful what you wish for. And Midas took those words to heart, washed himself in that spring, and to this day, if you go up into the mountains in Greece, you can find that spring. There are little flecks of gold in the ground all around that spring. And Dionysus, he took that pitcher of water, and the first person, of course, he poured it on was his daughter. And he realized then what true wealth is, and that's the end of the story.